I don't even know what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are even going for anymore in their marketing. Like, obviously, they can't keep comparing Pierre Poilievre to Donald Trump and Donald Trump to Hitler because that resulted in some pretty unsavory things. But the Liberals aren't even pivoting in a smart direction where maybe they can find a different angle of attack on Pierre Poilievre, or maybe they can market some new program they have to try and bring some middle class Canadians back towards them. Like, no, they're just doing the carbon tax again. I don't know why, from a purely neutral political analysis perspective. Like, I am a conservative, but from a neutral perspective, why are you continuing to talk about the issue that Canadians have their minds made up about? You do not enter a room of people and find anyone who's still on the fence with whether or not they like the carbon tax or not. The carbon tax pretty much breaks down to, are you doing really well already and you really don't care about the extra money you have to spend in terms of the carbon tax? Or are you struggling? And most people are struggling, so most people hate it. Calling it a price on pollution, calling it the carbon rebate program is not going to help. And so the Liberals now, in their 17th kick at the can on this one, are just using the same talking points, but pairing it up with cringier videos. I don't know how the cringe is supposed to help them, but at least it's resulting in hilarious stuff like this for me to talk about. And so this is one that was done by Prime Minister Trudeau himself, but I'm going to get to some other ones from other Liberal Party MPs.
Check your bank account.
You better not have frozen it, you son of a gun. That would actually been hilarious if he just said, but check your bank account. It's frozen. See, I'm a pretty powerful dude. You should consider voting Liberal and maybe I'll give you back your money. That would be a kind of a based move, in my opinion. I'd consider voting for him if he was actually pulling videos off like that were that funny, but I'll let him make his point here.
Check your bank account. If you live in one of these provinces and you file your taxes, you receive the Canada Carbon Rebate today. That's money from the price on pollution that gets deposited automatically in your bank account 4 times a year.
Does he actually think we're children? Like, I'm not sure if this was a video that was supposed to go towards new immigrants and like explain how the carbon tax rebates work, but everyone knows this. Telling people about how the carbon tax works again isn't going to make us, do a little bit of a think and say, actually, I like the fact that I get a portion of my money back in exchange for the government laundering some of it towards their like big donor environmentalist friends. Like, that nobody's convinced by this. I know they're going to keep saying, somebody in the parliamentary budget office said that 8 out of 10 Canadians get back more money than they put in. It's just not true. The PBO used to say something else, and then they had them rework the math, basically just change the metric. And you can do that for anything. If you change the metric for anything, it turns out that asbestos is actually very good for you. But now the Liberals are just pretending like you're going to be dazzled by the fact that you had something injected into your bank account. I didn't even get it in my bank account. Like, I'm not a well-off person, so I can personally tell you I do not benefit from the carbon tax compared to my costs. But I still get it in check form. So that was disappointing with that when I checked. It wasn't even, Justin Trudeau lied to me. I didn't get money deposited into the bank account.
Unless you pollute an awful lot every day, chances are you just received more money than you pay out with the price on pollution. So check your bank account or watch the mailbox for the coming days.
Oh, he does have the mailbox part at the end. And again, like, isn't that kind of sick in a certain sense that we're describing people using energy in a country where, like, it gets below -40 in many areas, like in Calgary where I live, that you're casting that as how much you pollute. No, it's necessary energy. I don't know that many people who just burn unnecessary energy for the fun of it. Like, unless we're going to start defining anything but a singular lamp and a heater as more than you need, most people are not frivolously using energy. And that's also the big disconnect with a lot of the Liberals' marketing. Nobody is under the impression that there's a big pollution problem that exists in their day-to-day life. But I want to move on now to another video done by Nate S. Erickson Smith that Trudeau is promoting, which is really funny because Nate Erickson Smith was one of the Liberal MPs who very unsubtly implied that maybe Justin Trudeau should be subject to a leadership review or maybe even resign his office and let someone else be prime minister. So the fact that now he's also sharing Nate's videos is quite cool because it means Trudeau's effectively endorsing Nate's perspective on things.
The purpose of the price is to change behavior, not to generate revenue. At least 90%.
Why is he saying that like it's a good thing? it's actually supposed to be for social control, not for any legitimate revenue, need. It's not that the government needs this money to go fight climate change. They can't fight climate change. You can't fight climate change in any way that the liberal government is promoting. And so when he's saying it's not actually taking any money of your pocket, it's revenue neutral, and one, it's not revenue neutral. But even then, it's like, well, what's the point? Now it's just a stupid financial shell game then.
Of the revenue is rebated directly to individuals who file their taxes, and there's a top-up for rural Canadians. The rebate makes 8 out of 10 households better off on a cash transfer basis. I'll say that again. The rebate makes 8 out of 10 households better off on a cash transfer basis. That's
You do have to repeat things a lot if it's a lie and you want people to believe it.
taxes paid and rebate received. That's determined by the parliamentary budget officer. Only the 20% pays more than they receive back. Why? Because they pollute more. According to StatsCan modeling, 94% of households earning.
No, that doesn't make any sense, because it's based on income level. If anything, actually, people who are richer tend to pollute less because they usually can buy and upgrade appliances in their homes that have lower carbon impact. I don't even care. Use whatever you want. Like, it's not really the government's problem to give you money or to take money away from you based on your behaviors in terms of carbon. Like, I'm actually kind of mad right now at the Alberta government, which just announced this just rock stupid program, a $44 million program to help like small business owners reduce their carbon footprint. No, just give people back their tax money anyways and let them use it for whatever they want. If they want to upgrade their AC system and it produces less carbon, fair enough. If they want to give their staff a wage raise, that's okay too. But I hate this stupid nanny state garbage where the government's supposed to tell you, the business owner who actually knows how to create jobs and knows how to, add value back into the economy, how you should spend this money. People who have never had real jobs, for a good portion of politicians, many of these people who have never had real jobs are going to come into your back office and tell you how you should be spending the money the government's giving you. It's ridiculous, condescending, and now let's listen to the rest of his condescending video. It's only 5 seconds, I guess.
$50,000 or less will receive more in the rebate than they pay in the price.
And notice the language they're even using here. You receive more in the rebate than you pay in the price. And they're being very limited here. They're not saying everything that the carbon tax affects. They're talking about the price on pollution part of it. So yes, if you make less than $50,000 a year, you will get more back than you maybe pay in gasoline or home heating. Some of you will. Many of you still won't. But that's not taking into account groceries, other services, everything within the economy that the carbon tax has been applied to multiple times before it even gets to you. And let's be clear, the carbon tax even applies more on your gas than the Liberals are accounting for, because the truck that shows up to bring you the gas is paying the carbon tax on the gas it's using to transport. The companies that are drilling oil are paying it on all their machinery. The carbon tax applies like 6, 7, 8 times down the supply chain before you're even paying the small portion the Liberals are actually counting when you stick the nozzle into your car. But that's high level thinking for the Liberals, or at least they think that you can't do it. Oh goodness, this one's just cringy. I'm going to show it to you quickly. I saved it for a reason because I found the cringe funny. I'll just start off right here. It's a Liberal from New Brunswick, Jeanette Pietpas Taylor. I can't say French names or whatever country her family's from. I don't get it. She says, New Brunswickers will receive the Canada carbon rebate today. Good climate and economic policy. Good for Canadians. And then switches to French. And then she just has this, where it just like makes a dinging sound or whatever. Do politicians legitimately think that you're 5 years old? They actually think that they're geniuses, despite the fact that they've never actually created a job themselves. They've never owned businesses. Many of them never really even practiced their area of expertise very long. Like, so many people who are lawyers in government never really practiced as lawyers. They just kind of immediately jumped over to being government employees and then eventually became politicians. And in a certain sense, I don't mind. I don't really care how much experience you had in the economy before you become an elected MP. There are tons of people in government who used to be business owners who still suck as politicians. I want people who are good at their jobs being politicians, regardless if how much experience they have. Pierre Poilievre technically never really had a major career before he was an MP, but he's a good MP. So that's the kind of good type of career politician I like. So whenever people ask me if I like the idea of term limits, I usually just say it depends. For certain positions, maybe there should be term limits. Maybe you get 3 or like 12 years maximum to be the prime minister of the country, or maybe like 10 years. I don't know. But in terms of being an MP, would you rather to get rid of an Arif Farani in a few terms, would you sacrifice getting rid of Pierre Poilievre, who's actually very good as a politician and getting things done? That's always the rub I have. But the problem is that it's insulting on top of the fact that they're bad politicians, that they also don't even have any experience in the real world. But yeah, every liberal is just posting all this stuff about how check your bank account. Stephen Guilbeault here saying, today's the day, acting like it's Christmas. The second installment of the Canada carbon rebate will start being sent out as of today, unless you are a major polluter. Guys, again, stop calling people just trying to survive polluters or people creating jobs polluters. Unless you are a major polluter, you'll get more money back than you paid, leaving you better off and helping to fight climate change. It's so manipulative and silly. Every single one of them has like their own version of the graphic to post. Ahmed Hussein here said, check your bank account today for the Canada carbon rebate. Our plan to fight climate change is working. Working how? We haven't actually really lowered emissions in any like raw form. Yes, per capita emissions are down. That's just because the economy fell in 2020 and 2021. You'll notice that they'll say like, look how well the carbon tax has done at lowering emissions. They'll start the chart at 2018. The emissions go up even though the carbon tax is in place. 2020 hits, lockdowns hit, and then emissions fall. But it's falling with the GDP as well. It's falling with economic growth. So as the economic growth comes back, emissions are going to go up because the carbon tax doesn't really do anything. All it does is make suffering people's lives harder and bankrupts people who are only on the fringes. It's doing absolutely nothing to make people change behavior, and neither should they be changing their behavior. People should be acting in their own best interest to make sure that their lives are as comfortable as possible. The liberals' philosophy is that it's the government's job to determine what you can and cannot do to better your life, which is deeply insulting in my opinion. Okay, this one's pretty great. It's a 2-minute video of Stephen Guilbeault talking to another Liberal Party MP, trying to explain to you, bunch of idiots out there, why the carbon tax is actually quite good for you.
Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you.
It's always good to see you. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Especially now with all this misinformation about carbon.
I hate videos where it's like just two normal guys talking to each other in their office, just like, oh, it's so great to meet you. You guys are fellow MPs. I assume you see each other all the time. Again, the government thinks you're 5-year-olds, and that's why they cut videos like this.
Pricing, I thought we could take a minute to explain to our viewers why carbon pricing works and why it's so important for Canada and Canadians.
The good news is that now I'm an economist, and 300 economists just recently wrote a letter to explain to the conservatives in particular why putting a price on carbon, a price on pollution, is the most efficient, the best way to fight pollution, making life more affordable for Canadians and fighting climate change.
And in fact, one of those economists has won a Nobel Prize for his work on carbon pricing, William Nordas. On the one hand, we have economists, parliamentary budget officers, experts from Environment and Climate Change Canada and Health Canada, all saying carbon pricing is the best way to fight climate change.
Guys, it's a staged video and they can't even get it smooth. Just the idea too that, wow, there's 300 economists out there who agree with us that more taxes are better. Like, yeah, it's not that hard to find big government liberal or socialist economists. And it's like, and one of them has a Nobel Prize in this. I'm like, yeah, so, well, his carbon tax objectively on paper does not work. And this guy is selfish enough to defend his own research by coming and saying that you guys are actually doing a good job, even though everyone can see it's terrible. It's not surprising that someone's going to come and defend their own research by backing you hacks. I'd love to see the stats that if you showed this video to 1,000 Canadians, how many people actually would have their minds changed. And again, the framing here is terrible. Look how much space is above Stephen Guilbeault's head. I don't even know if Stephen Guilbeault is a particularly short man, but they're making both of them look just absolutely tiny in this office with all of this like blue sky above their heads. Not actually blue sky, but you get my point, with all this daylight over top of them.
Change puts more money in most Canadians' families' pockets. And on the other hand, we have this guy who says that it doesn't work and we shouldn't even believe in climate change. So I think if we have a choice between the two, I'll
genuinely, Stephen, when did he say that? When did Pierre Poilievre say that he doesn't even believe in climate change? Find me the quote. Actually, find me the actual quote where Pierre Poilievre said that climate change isn't real. Nobody's ever said that. Like, yeah, you'll have some people who might say that. It's a very small group of people. There's a debate on whether or not humans cause climate change in a like major way, like they're a major contributor. You could put anything in the atmosphere and it will technically change the climate in some way, even as infinitesimally small as it might be. If you just fire off Cheeto dust into the atmosphere, yes, you will change the climate in some way, but it really depends on what one of the major factors is. But Stephen Guilbeault has no citation for saying that Pierre Poilievre doesn't believe in climate change. It's just a convenient thing for him to say in order for him to at least keep the progressive base on the left on side with the Liberals, pretending that their own opponents don't even believe in climate change.
I'll choose to go with the economists.
It's not only about economists, it's about also public health experts, doctors and nurses who understand that if you live in a clean environment, your own health is better. Clean air, clean water, clean soil, biodiversity, that's good for the environment. It's also good for human health. Now, these experts understand that. The others that we see in the health don't seem to understand that yet.
No, and they seem to forget that each year in Canada, 18,000 people die prematurely because of poor air quality. So the more we fight climate change, the more we reduce our dependence.
That's just not true. It's just flat out not true. The idea that people are dying because of poor air quality. And that's nothing to do with carbon emissions. Nobody's dying of carbon emissions. That's just not an actual thing. 18,000 people are dying prematurely in Canada, or maybe unless I missed it, he said the world. If he's saying the world, that's not really our problem. But no, they're acting like we're in London in 1880 or 1965 or something like that, and there's actual smog in the air. Just to get a news flash to you guys, there's nothing wrong with the air in Canada. Yes, if you live in a downtown core, there might be a little bit more emissions from tailpipes and whatnot, but most people don't exactly hang out on the streets inhaling it. This is not what Toronto looks like. It doesn't look like London back in the mid-century. Newsflash to Stephen Guilbeault here. And even then when they're showing this, that's not, no. And they're going to say because people might have died from smoke inhalation or from wildfire smoke. That's not climate change. That's a wildfire. I don't think wildfires, to my knowledge, were invented as of 10 years ago.
On fossil fuels, which cause bad air quality, we will help save lives. So it's good for the economy, it's good for the planet, it's good for the health of Canadians. What's not to like about it?
Well, that's great news. Now, let's try to explain that to our conservative friends in the House of Commons.
Let's go.
I'm dying of cringe. That hurt me. I'm just tired. I'm just tired of all this. Well, I at least want to play one more video of Justin Trudeau once again trying to defend their policies on the climate, their big carbon tax program. It's just, again, that's tiring. It's tiring. These are talking points for
and puts more money in.
Ooh, why is this freezing? Oh. Also, I gotta say, this is really embarrassing that he's actually giving the speech at NATO when we should be talking about the military. He's out there talking about putting a price on pollution. Can we have tanks again? That'd be nice. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the military, but I think we should probably have some military equipment.
Has shown global
for
leadership in addressing the climate crisis. We've placed a price on pollution that simultaneously reduces our emissions and puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians. We launched Canada's first national adaptation strategy to build stronger and more resilient communities. We became the first major oil-producing nation to introduce a cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector. And we're creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying, sustainable jobs from coast to coast to coast with our $160 billion investment in our net zero economic plan and green industrial strategy, showing every step of the way that good climate policy is good economic policy.
Again, the speech is at NATO. Look at the flags behind him. This is about NATO, or like is about TPP. I'm pretty sure that's the NATO flag. I'm looking up just to see if I'm stupid or not. Like, no, that's the NATO logo, and he's like talking about like socialism or whatever. Other foreign leaders actually want to talk about like global security and our alliances together. And Justin Trudeau's up there talking about how we're creating basically socialist job programs through dumping money into the like failing green energy sector. I always hate whenever people post a chart and see the solar industry is just popping off right now, and you see this chart where it's like going up like a hockey stick, and it's like, yeah, show me the chart now that shows when the subsidies kicked in. This is not organic growth. Notice how, too, every time you propose taking away the subsidies, the left then accuses you of not believing in free market economics. Utterly stupid, considering the idea that I'm pretty sure that government putting its finger on the scale is not free market. But whatever, these people use excuses and they twist words depending on what goal they're trying to achieve. So if you're opposing socialistic type program, if you're opposing, socialistic type subsidy programs for green energy, then you are attacking the free market because you're trying to reduce competition by not artificially propping up a failing industry that nobody asked for. But what can you do? That's it for me today, guys. If you want to give money to my legal fund, it's in the description below. It's the Give, Send, Go link below the video. And then you can also join my website, WyattClaypool.com. There's a sign-up list there. If you guys want recommendations for local races, who you can vote for in nominations, municipal, provincial, federal elections, basically I can micro-target you guys in different parts of the country and give you guys information on specific candidates, specific little movements or organizations that you can get involved with. I'm just trying to do this to make sure that we're all more connected in Canada, because the Canadian media makes politics so boring because there's so little information on how to get involved and how to vote, what to do. I'm trying to get around that by trying to create a little bit of a grouping, a bit of a small movement through my own channel to get people on a localized level involved in places where they can actually make change. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. Have a good one.